Welcome back to the Explainer. Okay, I want to kick things off today by asking you a rather bold question. Is the traditional project management office, the PMO as we've always known it, actually becoming completely obsolete as we look toward 2026? Well, the answer might just be yes, but probably not in the way you might think.
Because the reality here is that project management is undergoing this massive, fundamental shift right now. We are moving away from a purely administrative, compliance-driven function where, let's face it, success basically just meant checking boxes, and we're evolving into a highly strategic, value-driving force. And it doesn't matter if you're in a massive corporate enterprise or the public sector, expectations are just changing at lightning speed.
So here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. First, we'll establish the baseline of the traditional PMO. Then, we'll explore two distinct evolutionary paths, the enterprise shift toward the transformation office, and then the public sector's shifting approach. After that, we'll look at how communities are being empowered, and finally, what the future of public projects actually looks like down the line.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, the traditional PMO baseline.
At its absolute simplest, a traditional PMO is all about establishing consistency, right? You can think of it as an organization's internal traffic control. Historically, this unit has been heavily focused on creating templates, tracking milestones, enforcing those reporting standards, and setting up governance frameworks, just to ensure everyone is essentially following the exact same rulebook. And when you're setting up this baseline, there are a few foundational steps you take. First, you have to clarify the mandate. Are you going to be supportive or controlling? Second, establishing your core processes, things like governance and risk reporting. And third, staffing for capability. But here is the absolutely critical takeaway. A successful PMO has to build true capability and deliver visible, rapid value, rather than just acting as a machine for endless red tape and bureaucracy. Which brings us to Section 2. The rise of the transformation office.
Now, that historical baseline we just talked about, it is being heavily challenged. Relentless disruption and cost pressures are essentially forcing the PMO to evolve from the old way, where it acted as a pure compliance office and where strict process often actually impeded rapid change. Now, we're moving to a completely new paradigm. The modern transformation office acts as a change leader. It's actively guiding the enterprise through complex disruption and turning strategic ambition into real, measurable business impact.
So in the enterprise world, the transformation office takes on these incredibly dynamic functions. It ensures every single initiative actually ties back to strategic goals. It handles the crucial people side of change, which we all know is about building buy-in and reducing resistance. It makes really smart calls on resource allocation, deploying funding and expertise for maximum impact, and crucially, rather than just ticking off activities on a giant spreadsheet, a modern transformation office measures its progress by tracking actual, realized value and outcomes. It's a total game changer.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Section 3, public sector project shifts.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is that this massive evolution isn't just happening in corporate enterprises. Public administration is fundamentally altering its approach too. Drawing on some fascinating research by Stanislav Gosek, we can see that governments worldwide are actively abandoning those rigid old frameworks. They're finally recognizing that unique public needs actually demand entirely new management structures. And just to put the sheer scale of this into perspective, consider this staggering metric. Between 14 and 33% of all statutory tasks in the public sector are now implemented through projects. That is huge. This massive projectification means the way government work is managed right now has an enormous direct impact on everyday society. It literally affects all of us. And one of the most significant structural shifts we're seeing in this space is what's called depoliticization. So this is a trend where the direct influence of politicians in operational project decisions is structurally reduced. Basically, laws like the GPRA create a barrier. Leaving high-level policy to elected officials, sure, but they shift the actual project execution and decision-making over to administrative professionals and established legal procedures. It separates the politics from the execution. Which perfectly lines us up for Section 4, empowering community decision-making. So the crucial point here is that as politicians step back from direct project selection, the community itself is stepping up. Citizens are being empowered to impact their own lives through 4 specific methods. First, referendums on major programs. Second, participatory budgeting for local funds. Third,
deliberations where randomly selected community members recommend actions, and fourth, unsolicited proposals, or honestly, anyone can submit innovative ideas directly to the government. And all of this direct citizen involvement is being heavily aided and, frankly, accelerated by remote virtual communication technologies.
Alongside all of that, the relationship with private contractors is shifting dramatically as well. Traditionally, governments relied on these very strict arm's-length contracts, right? Where if a contractor hit a wall, the government legally couldn't even help them. But now, the approach is moving much more toward institutional partnership. Governments are actively helping private contractors overcome legal or supply chain hurdles just to ensure the project actually survives and succeeds. It's way more collaborative. Let's move to our final area, Section 5, the future of public projects. Let's see how all this builds together, because as societies mature, the very nature of what a public project even is completely transforming. Historically, public management moved through these distinct phases. Phase 1 was all about collective survival, like organizing an army. Phase 2 built collective infrastructure, think roads and power grids. But today, highly developed societies are firmly entrenched in Phase 3. We're pivoting our focus heavily towards citizen well-being, health, and education.
And as we get deeper into the highly matured stages of Phase 3, the future points towards something truly fascinating: the rise of individual public projects. What does that actually mean? Well, it means that eventually, things like highly specialized healthcare, individualized education paths, or even organizing a business for a single citizen, those will be treated as distinct, state-supported, individually managed projects. We are literally moving from massive collective endeavors to highly bespoke, projectified services tailored directly to the individual.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a huge amount of ground today in this explainer. From the Enterprise Transformation Office driving real measurable value, to governments depoliticizing decisions and even funding individual public projects. So I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought as you look at your own organization's maturity. Ask yourself, are you ready for a future that demands absolute speed, clarity, and proven value? Honestly, are you actually driving change, or are you just reporting on it? Think about that for a minute. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope this leaves you eager to completely rethink how you manage your next big initiative.